All right, let's talk about dimensional analysis. So if we're going to do that, let's look at this one. A pencil is 7 inches long. What's its length in centimeters? So, of course, we write our given first, and then we need to convert from inches to centimeters. Let's put inches on the bottom, so inches can cancel inches. We have a direct conversion available, so we can put centimeters on top. That way we can be on our final answer. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, so we can write it just like that, meaning this times this gives our answer. And that is going to be 7 times 2.54, 17.78. Now don't forget, this is 3 sig figs because it's English and metric units mixed, and this right here is 3 sig figs also, so you better round to 3 significant figures. That is going to be 17.8 centimeters. That's the length of the pencil. Onward. So for your Canadian friend wanting a 64.7 centimeter frame, you got to figure out what that is in inches. So what should they order? We write the given 64.7. Oops, I don't know why I put that decimal point there. Let's wipe that out. And then what we do then is make sure we have our units on that, centimeters, times something to give inches. So let's put inches on top and centimeters on bottom. Similar to here, it's just we're going opposite direction. And it's still true that 1 inch is roughly 2.54 centimeters. So 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So now it winds up with the 2.54 is on the bottom instead of on the top because we put it next to the correct number. What we do here is then take this divided by this equals your answer. So let's see, 64.7 divided by 2.54 is 25.47 whatever. 25.47244 whatever, it goes on a ways, but we better round because there's 3 sig figs here, 3 sig figs here, so we got to round to 3 significant figures. So it doesn't matter what decimals come after that, we're going to be rounding anyway to 25 point, and that 4 rounds up to 5. So it's a 25.5 inch wheel. All right, or a 25.5 inch frame. That's the size. All right, onward. We can then look at a 10-kilometer race. So how far in miles is a 10-kilometer race? So we write 10.0 kilometers times, put kilometers on bottom so we can cancel, miles on top so that you can have it in the answer. 1 mile is approximately 1.61 kilometers according to this. So then when we do that, what we get is 10 divided by 1.61 for that. So 0.6211, or sorry, not 0.621, 6.21 1180124, and I'm sure there's plenty more decimals. Doesn't matter though, because that's 3 sig figs. That's 3 sig figs also, so we're rounded to 3 significant figures, which means 6.21 miles. All right, so if you're up for a 6.21 mile race, then a 10K is for you. All right, onward. This many milligrams to kilograms. 614,252.8 milligrams times, and then we're going to need more than one conversion factor because there's no base units here. Milligrams on bottom so I can cancel. We're going to convert from milligrams to the base unit of gram, and then from gram to kilogram. So milligram to gram to kilogram. So milligram to gram, and then from gram to kilogram. So milli means 1/1000th, so we put the number 1000 next to the smaller unit, and this unit of thousandth of the gram is smaller than a gram, so the number 1000 goes next to the smaller unit. That's the number of milligrams in 1 gram. Kilo means 1000, and 1000 goes next to the smaller unit, and gram is smaller than a kilogram, therefore the number 1000 goes next to the smaller unit of gram, because 1 gram is smaller than 1000 of them. All right, now let's figure this out. This divided by 1000 and then divided by 1000 again. All right, 614,252.8 divided by 1000. Yes, break it up one at a time. That way you avoid issues from order of operations. And divided by 1000 again, you get this right here. So that comes out to 0.6142528 kilograms, because milligram cancels milligram, gram cancels gram to give kilograms in your answer. Infinite sig figs because they're both metric. Infinite sig figs because they're both metric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 significant figures here, 7 significant figures here. You are good with this. You could potentially use scientific notation if it so pleases you. All right, onward. This one. 65 miles an hour. What is that in kilometers an hour? 65 kilometers per 1 hour. Yeah, 65 miles. This refers to a speed where in 1 hour you can cover 65 miles. So 65 miles per 1 hour. The 1 is implied. We need to convert from kilometers an hour, or from miles an hour to kilometers an hour. So I just realized, sorry, that I had kilometers there for a bit. 65 miles. So we need to go from miles to kilometers. And then for the bottom, we need to go from hours, to, well, stay the same as hours. So we just, really all it is we can leave this the same. And this becomes the thing we got to do. So let's do it. So we put miles on bottom. That way miles can cancel miles. The kilometers on top. We look up here. A mile is 1.61 kilometers approximately. They're different measuring systems, so it's not going to be exact, which means this is 3 sig figs, but that's okay because this is 2 sig figs, so we're going to round to 2 sig figs anyway. 65 times 1.61 is 104.65. Why is this kilometers an hour? Because mile cancel mile to give kilometers on top and hours on bottom. So 104.65 kilometers an hour. Now I got to round that to 2 significant figures. This is your first sig fig, this is your second sig fig. The 0 is next to a 4, so it rounds down to 0. So it becomes 100 kilometers per hour. Now this is 1 sig fig, this is 3 sig figs. How do you write it with 2 significant figures? You got to use scientific notation. 1.0 times 10 to the second kilometers per hour is the only way to write it with 2 significant figures. There's no other way possible. All right, now let's do this in meters per second. So, all right, we can start with miles per hour, and we can go from miles to kilometers to meters, and then we can go from hours to minutes to seconds for the unit on bottom. But we've already kind of done that, so we could start here with kilometers per hour and convert that to meters per second, but just for completeness' sake, I'll show you how to go through the whole thing. Though, like I said, you could start with kilometers per hour and just go from kilometers to meters and then do the hour units with this, but for completeness' sake, I'll show you the whole thing. 65 miles per 1 hour times, let's do miles to kilometers, and then from kilometers to meters times. All right, so miles cancel miles, kilometer cancel kilometer, leaving meters on top for the top of your answer. So how many miles per kilometer? We got it right there, and then you should know off the top of your head that a kilometer is 1,000 meters. As for hours, we put hour on top. That way hour on top can cancel with this hour on the bottom. We're going to convert from hours to minutes. So I'll put minutes down here. And then we're going to make another conversion from minutes to seconds. So I put minutes on top so it can cancel, and seconds on bottom because you need seconds on bottom in your final answer. So it needs to be on the bottom. And now to plug in the numbers. 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers according to your reference sheet. You should know that kilo means 1,000, and a meter is smaller than 1,000 meters, so you put the 1,000 next to meter, and then that's equal to 1 kilometer. 1 hour is 60 minutes, and 1 minute is 60 seconds. So it's saying we're going to take this, times this, divided by this, divided by this. So let's do that. 65 times 1.61 equals times 1,000 equals, yes, I'm breaking it down step by step to avoid errors from wrong order of operations. Divided by 60 equals, divided by 60 equals that. 29.06, whatever. But I'm running out of space. Actually, no, I'll write down the right answer. 29.0694444, repeating meters per second. Let's round that. 2 sig figs, 3 sig figs, infinite sig figs. Infinite sig figs because it's both time units. Infinite sig figs because it's both time units. That means 2 sig figs is the smallest, so 2 sig figs for here. That means 29 meters per second because that 9 is next to a 0, so it doesn't round up. So that's our answer, 29 meters per second. And now the Japanese car with 15 kilometers per liter gas mileage, let's convert that to miles per gallon. 15 kilometers per liter. And we're going to convert, might as well convert kilometers to miles first. So we'll do kilometers to miles on top. And then for the bottom, we'll do liters to gallons. And we can do that because that's one of the conversion factors given to you here. Okay, so kilometers on bottom, miles on top. By the way, I could have done this conversion first. It doesn't matter what order you do them in. But anyway, kilometers cancel kilometers to leave miles on top. That's good. And then liters. Let's put liters on top. That way liter can cancel liter. And then we want miles per gallon. So we need to have gallon on the bottom. So I put gallon on top. So we're going to convert from liters to gallons. That leaves liter cancel liter, leaving miles on top and gallons on bottom. Miles per gallon. So let's check this out. Miles and kilometers, it's here. Gallons and liters, it's here. Turns out 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers, and 1 gallon is approximately 3.78 liters. These are different measuring systems, and so are these. That's metric, that's English, so that means 3 sig figs and 3 sig figs and 2 sig figs. So this is going to limit you anyway. So 15 divided by 1.61 equals times 3.78 equals 35.2173913. All right, what is the units of that? Miles per gallon. Now, that's 2 sig figs, 3 sig figs, 3 sig figs, so we better round that to 2 sig figs. That's 35 miles per gallon. There we go. Onward. Chemists often give the composition of a mixture in terms of its concentration, like how many grams per a mass unit divided by a volume unit. So let's take this and convert it to these other ones. 0.30, what was it, grams per milliliter times, and we want to convert it to milligrams per milliliter. So we need grams on bottom so we can cancel, and milligrams on top. Milli means 1/1000th. So we put 1,000 next to the small unit. Turns out milligram is the small unit. So 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram because, yes, big number goes next to the small unit. So given that reality, we've got to say grams cancel grams. We're going to have milligrams per milliliter, just as it asks here. So what's this times 1,000? Turns out 0.3 times 1,000 is 300. All right, if you don't believe me, here you go. 0.3 times 1,000. All right, now 300 milligrams per milliliter. So that's fine, but notice this is 2 sig figs. This is infinite sig figs. We better make sure that this is 2 significant figures. If you put a decimal here, that's 3 sig figs. No decimal, it's 1 sig fig. If you put a decimal here, that's not the same number. If you put a decimal here, it's also not the same number. 3.0 or whatever. However, we can turn to scientific notation, say 3.0 times 10 to the second. Now it's 2 sig figs, and it represents the number 300. Because after all, this means move the decimal 2 places, and positive exponent means big number. So that's the number of milligrams per milliliter, with the correct number of significant figures. Okay. 0.30 grams per milliliter. Now we're converting to grams per centimeter. Okay, well, it certainly helps to know that there is a relationship between milliliters and cubic centimeters. So I'm going to set this up. That way milliliter cancels milliliter to leave cubic centimeters on bottom and grams on top. So grams per cubic centimeter. Turns out 1 milliliter is equal to 1 cubic centimeter. So it's this times 1 divided by 1, which equals the exact same thing, 0.30 grams per cubic centimeter. Infinite sig figs here, so it's just 2 sig figs, 2 sig figs. Okay, cool. Now, micrograms per milliliter. All right, 0.30 grams per milliliter times, we want micro, oops, that's not micro, micrograms. Okay, and do we have milliliters here though? Or sorry, do we have grams? Yes, we do. Why? Because we can go straight from grams to micrograms. And the reason why we can do that is because a microgram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram, so you better have the number million in here somewhere. Now, it turns out the smaller unit is on top in this example, so we put it next to the smaller unit. You can either write out the number million, or you can use 1 times 10 to the 6, which represents the same idea. And so what we're going to do is basically put an automatic 1 there, so this times a million. So 0.3 times a million gives that. By the way, 0.3 times 1 times 10 to the 6th gives exactly the same number, because the 1 times 10 to the 6th is a million. Let's convert that to scientific notation, all the same. So if you do that, what you get is 0.3 times this, which is 300,000, and 300,000 is 3 times 10 to the 5th. That's what comes out of your calculator. However, if you just write that for your answer, you are wrong, because that's 2 sig figs. These are both metric, so that's infinite. You better make this have 2 sig figs. So that's going to be 3.0 times 10 to the 5th. And don't forget your units, by the way. Gram cancels gram. Microgram per milliliter. All right, that's how that one goes. Now let's move on. The conversion from one unit to another. Oh boy, here we go. Troy pound to kilograms. So how do you go from troy pound to kilograms? Let's find what we have. We can go from troy pound to troy ounces. And then once we have troy ounces, what can we go from there to? We can go to pennyweight. And then once we have pennyweights, we can convert from units of pennyweight to grain. And then once we have grains, we can go from that to, let's see, what do we got? Grams. And once we got gram, we can go to kilogram. Oh boy, how's that for multi-step conversion? All right, let's do it. So 1 troy pound times troy pound on bottom, so I can cancel. Troy pound to troy ounce. Technically, that's the abbreviation for ounce. If you write it out, it's fine. So put troy ounce on bottom here so we can cancel with that. Troy ounce to pennyweight. I have no idea what the abbreviation is, and if you don't either, then don't make one up. Write out the whole word. Pennyweight to gram. And then from gram to kilogram. So troy pound cancels troy pound, troy ounce cancels troy ounce, pennyweight cancels pennyweight, gram cancels gram, leaving kilogram as your sole unit for your answer. Let's go through this. Okay, troy pounds to troy ounces right here. 12 troy ounces is 1 troy pound. Troy ounce to pennyweight. 20 pennyweights is equal to 1 troy ounce, so 1 troy ounce is 20 pennyweights. Pennyweights to gram. Oops, sorry, I totally missed out on a step here. I misread my own handwriting. That's grain, not gram. So we need to go from grain to gram, and then from gram to kilogram. Okay, anyway, from pennyweight to grain, we can go from, here we go. 1 pennyweight is 24 grains, and then from grain to grams, 1 grain is approximately 0.0648 grams, and then a kilogram is 1,000 grams because kilo means 1,000, and since a gram is smaller than 1,000 grams, the big number goes next to the smaller unit, so it's down there. So it's that times 12 times 20 times 24 times that times divided by 1,000. So 1 times 12 times 20. Yes, break it down, do it in small steps like this. Don't attempt to do it all at once, you'll mess it up. Times 24 times 0.0648 divided by 1,000. And you get your final answer of 0.373 kilograms. And why did I round to 3 significant figures? these are the same measuring systems, and so I gave you the hint by the straight equal sign, infinite sig figs. So infinite sig figs, infinite sig figs, infinite sig figs, 3 sig figs, infinite sig figs. Now I say the troy pound, so this is like exactly 1 troy pound with infinite significant figures. Sorry, I know that's hard, but this means the only thing that limits you is this 3 sig figs here, which is why you have 3 sig figs in your answer. All right, troy pound in English pounds. Okay, so the troy pound in English pounds. So here's what we can do. We can go through this whole thing again and convert from grams to kilograms, and then add on to it one more conversion factor from kilograms to pounds. Or we can just do this. Remember how I had the whole decimal here? The original unrounded number was 0.373248 kilogram. Okay, it's not really cheating. We can it's totally fair. We can say, okay, we know the troy pound is 0.373248 kilograms. Let's just convert that to pounds. So you can just go look up the conversion. 2.20 pounds to the kilogram. So kilogram on bottom, pound on top, 2.20 pounds is 1 kilogram. Okay, they always say work harder, work smarter, not harder. This is a classic example of that. 0.373248 times 2.2. Let's see, let me check against my key, make sure I'm not leading you astray. Yep, that's fine. So equals 0.821. Now, why am I stopping at 3 sig figs? Because first of all, this is unrounded, so which means all of this technically is part of this calculation. So we got 3 sig figs here because this calculation produced this. Therefore, all of this is part of what goes into determining your sig figs. In addition, we have these 3 sig figs here. So when looking at all the calculations done so far, we are limited to 3 sig figs, so 3 sig figs we shall use. So 0.821 pounds. By the way, I used not the rounded but the unrounded one, because remember, you don't round till the end. So use your unrounded number because you don't round until you're done. Okay, what is the mass of a troy ounce of gold in grams? All right, this is probably going to be one of those things that's easier to go through and figure out, because it is only partway through here. So the 1 troy ounce, we got to figure how are we going to do this. Troy ounce. Actually, I'll do my plan up here. We're going to convert from troy ounces to, not troy pounds, because that doesn't really take us anywhere, but we can go to pennyweight. And then from pennyweight, we can convert that to grain. And then from grain, we can convert that to gram. So it's a 4-step conversion. So 1 troy ounce goes from troy ounce. I put that unit here so that it can cancel. I know it looks like it says troyos, oops. To pennyweight. And then our next conversion goes from pennyweight to grain. And then our next conversion goes from grain to gram. All right, troy ounces to pennyweight. It says 1 troy ounce is 20 pennyweight. And then it says 24 grains is 1 pennyweight. And then it says approximately 0.0648 grams per grain. And that will give us, let's see, troy ounce cancels troy ounce, pennyweight cancels pennyweight, grain cancels grain, gram for your answer. So 1 troy ounce times 20 equals, times 24 equals, times 0.0648 equals 31.104 grams. So, all right, what are we looking at here? Infinite sig figs, infinite sig figs. I give you the hint there, infinite sig figs, and this is the only one that is limiting to 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3. So let's round to 3 significant figures. So we're going to call that 31.1 grams And I guess I'll add the chemical symbol for gold because it did talk about gold. It's okay if you didn't, but yeah, I might as well. All right. So let's then move on to the next thing. Okay, so let's go through this. I made a typo on one of the previous ones, so I got to redo this portion. So the density of gold is this. What's the volume of a troy pound of gold? So the way you go about dealing with that is, if you're going to find the volume, you're going to find the cubic centimeters. So you need to find out a way to turn troy pound into grams so that you can have gram cancel gram and give you cubic centimeters for an answer for the volume. So you got to convert troy pound to grams. So how are you going to do that? There's a couple of ways you can do that. One, you could notice that we had a troy pound conversion earlier and we converted it to grams and then to kilograms, and that's how we got this. You could also take this number of kilograms and simply convert it back to grams. Let's go for the more full version because you got to show your work on an exam. So let's show the, I'm going to copy this down to here. So 1 troy pound times 12 troy ounces per 1 troy pound times 20 pennyweight per 1 troy ounce times 24 grains per 1 pennyweight times 0.0648 grams per 1 grain. All right, that'll give you grams. And let's do that real quick. So 1 times 12 equals times 20 equals times 24 equals times 0.0648 equals 373.248 grams. Now, technically, I know that should be 3 sig figs, so this should be 373, but we don't round because we're not done yet. Okay, so you're just going to use the unrounded raw answer for your calculations. So you have grams. Like I said, you could have also just simply converted this to grams and gotten the same answer, as long as you show your work. I just picked this one just because. So what you then do is you got to figure out how to get your units of gram and your units of gram per cubic centimeter to cancel. And we're going to do it by flipping them around, as in like make this gram and centimeter cubed per gram. If we do that, then gram cancels gram, and when you times them together, and you get cubic centimeters for your final answer. So we can flip that. Is this, we can flip it upside down. That just means that 19.32 grams per cubic centimeter becomes 1 cubic centimeter is 19.32 grams. All right, this is the same thing because 1 cubic centimeter has a mass of that many grams. 1 cubic centimeter has a mass of that many grams. Doesn't matter how you write it, it's the same fact. So let's take this and the grams, and we're going to do basically this right here. So what I'm going to do is take the mass, 373.248 grams of gold, times a cubic centimeter of gold has a mass of 19.32 grams. That's the density. Gram cancel gram. Let's find out how many cubic centimeters that is. So 373.248 divided by 19.32 is 19.31925466, etc. cubic centimeters. Let's round. Infinite sig figs, infinite, infinite, infinite. By the way, this is infinite sig figs because we're talking about a theoretical troy pound as in exactly a troy pound. So infinite, 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 infinite. 3 sig figs because this is rounded and it's 2 different measuring systems, whereas these are the same measuring systems here. This is 4 sig figs for our given. So we have 4 sig figs in our given, but 3 sig figs in one of our conversion factors. So we got to round this to 3 significant figures as well. Meaning we have 19.3 cubic centimeters as the final volume of our gold.